have a kind of interesting perspective, I think, because I've had a long career, and the first half of it was actually in the business. And I did not transition into working on diversity and inclusion until, I guess, half, of my career, which was over 20 years ago. And being here in Chicago to talk about it is really, kind of special because for those of you who are in Chicago, I can imagine you've heard of Tom Burrell, who is someone I not only know personally, but had the opportunity to first meet as a client of his when I worked for Coca-Cola. And he became a mentor, and he is really one of the reasons that I moved from being in the business into moving into AAF, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. And this is kind of funny. The first account executive for an agency that I ever worked with, and I've been on client and agency side, is now the co-chairperson of Burrell. Her name is McGee Osei Williams. Williams Osei, and back when I knew her, her name was Geneva Richardson. And so that's how long we go back. And so Chicago also is because Johnson Publishing. I knew Mr. Johnson, and they're the reasons that I wound up making the transition. So any of you who do follow me on Twitter, like maybe two of you, know that there's an awful lot going on in the world that's really troubling me, and I believe that there are some headwinds that we have to deal with in order to be successful. And I was thinking how the reason I'm here is to be helpful. So how can I be most helpful? And there was this, this drawing that you see, can I be helpful to talk about improvement within the context of this very real stuff that's going on, and that is actually stuff that we come to work with every day, because identity is becoming so important, and we're filtering so much of what happens to us in the world through these lenses, and they're more and more important. So I was like, okay, do I go that way? And then at about 6 o'clock this morning, I said, no. Well, maybe a little bit of that. Like Caitlyn Jenner, really? Welcome to the party, but, where there are so many of us who are already under the bus, so you won't be lonely, I'm sorry, Megyn Kelly. I mean, this is real kind of stuff that people talk about at work. And, okay, so Megyn Kelly, when your colleagues and people I'm assuming you have some friendships with pull your coattail and tell you you have toilet paper, on your shoe, or that you stepped in some, and explain to you why isn't it, thank you for sharing. I would never want to do anything, to hurt you, and you move on. And I think that's more what we need, as colleagues and friends, and, in the world is more of, I didn't know. And that's one of the biggest problems, is we don't know, especially around race and ethnicity, because we live very, very segregated lives, extremely segregated lives. We're not always encouraged to learn. So, okay, got that out of my system. And so now I am going to do what, I think you want me to do, which is to give you some insights on how you can change, right? Which is about culture change. And as I said, it was 6 a.m. I usually don't use notes, but I'm gonna. And the other thing is I want you to feel, really hopeful that you can change things. And this is from the standpoint who's been working, someone who's been working for 20 years and has wanted to see things change, and I have seen some things change. But the fact is that if you are a white male, your odds of moving from the professional level to the executive level is 300% of what your representation is at the professional level. If you are a white woman, your opportunity is about 80% of your representation at the professional level, versus the executive level. If you're talking about management, you're at 1-to-1, which is perfectly even. If you're a person of color, especially if you are a black woman, the odds, okay, the probability is actually, I think, less than the probability of being struck by lightning. Your odds are less than they should be randomly, okay? That's not my analysis. That's the American Association of University Women who put some economists on it. And I know it holds for us because our data, our track record is a little less. So, what have I learned, right? That we've made progress. And I can tell you at IPG, we've made a lot of progress relative to the industry. I mean, I'm really proud to say that Weber Shandwick alone in the PR space, I believe, has about 30% of the black women executives in the entire PR industry working for them. And I can tell you that at IPG, we're only like 12% of the industry, but where we're doing in very underrepresented categories is 18% of the people in that category, 20%, 25%, which is incredible. And I'm on this data because I just had to report to our board 2 days ago. So this is really fresh in my mind. But the other thing that is really incredible about IPG that I'm particularly proud of is where those people are. For most of something like 80 to 90% of the people of color who work in IPG are in professional and management roles. Whereas in the rest of the industry, they're predominantly they're much more likely to be in administrative and in office worker roles, which is good for us because it means that we have more diversity helping us with our business, and we've seen a lot of culture change. And if you follow the industry, then you also know that in the last few years, we've outperformed all the other holding companies. And that's a huge deal because when I started, we didn't know if we were going to even exist, right? So when Michael Roth is out talking about diversity, about our success, and investors say, what is it? What is the secret sauce? One is, we have the most diverse talent. We think we have attracted some of the very, very best talent in the industry. And we know that our culture has changed. This is not to say that we have won the war, okay? We have so far to go. And, but even for us, the time has never been better because we know so much more about what it takes. And that we have so much information, because companies have been at this for now 30 and 40 years. And so there's a lot of data on what has worked and what hasn't. And that's, I think, really good wind at our back. I think the business environment has never been more compelling for diversity and inclusion. And it's probably not what you think. So I don't want to take up too much time, which I guess I am. So but I think the backstory is important because, because I am here to give you hope, right? So you know that you can make more progress. So here are the three things that really matter in changing culture. One of them is the paradigm, right? Culture change is just that. It's change. And it starts with what your burning issue is. Whether you're a family or a society, any organization, it's what is the burning issue, and that determines everything. Who's in charge, the resources, the sense of urgency. And I don't think we've been doing this for the right reasons from a business standpoint. There's a fairness and equality paradigm, which is let's make our organizations completely diversity neutral, where gender, where race have no bearing on outcomes and no bearing on our culture, and we align our processes so that we can achieve those goals. And that works really well if you're the Army, because it's command and control, right? There's a lot of controls on those processes, and you have a really compelling reason to do it, because of what you do. But what happens in those kinds of organizations is it makes it really, if you're supposed to be in this diversity blind, gender blind, race blind, every other kind of blind environment, how in the world do you bring that into your organization? How in the world do you have conversations about diversity issues? And do we really even want to pretend that when you look at me, you don't see a black woman with pink hair? No, of course not. Let's not even pretend that. And even when we want to believe that, our brains do, okay? And we don't have any control over that. And so that paradigm is, can get you diverse, but it certainly isn't going to help you max out on the talent. The next paradigm, which is kind of where we are, is this whole idea of a portfolio. And let's have a portfolio of diverse people so that we can build more credible and authentic relationships with emerging diverse markets. And we hear that a lot. The problem is, in most of our agencies, that's not what we do, right? We don't do that. And the other thing is, that works in it has worked in financial services, where they hired a bunch of black MBAs to do business with black-run cities. They had a lot of diverse customers. Sales, direct sales, insurance, where you're in a city and you want people to be selling to their neighbors. That makes sense. That doesn't apply to us either. The paradigm that we really should be working for is a paradigm that doesn't ask people to assimilate into an organization, which is a lot of what we do, which is let's take them and let's figure out how we can make them fit in our cultures, right? So the most important and most helpful paradigm is learning, is one that is about learning and effectiveness, and is actually about achieving critical masses of diversity, incorporating their perspectives. Different people don't just, might not, and they don't always, might not know something about their marketplace. Different people have different models, mental frameworks about how they even see what a problem is, how they go about solving it, right? And they also do have needs when they come in to the workplace. And there are things you need to do to make sure that you can capture that. So the model becomes, how do we get all the barriers out of the way so that we can really get people to contribute, that we really get critical masses, and that we're focused on innovation, and we're focused on that. And I think that is a much more compelling, burning business issue for any company now. You know, so how do we do that? How do we not neutralize differences? And you know, here's an example. Everybody's talking about we have to assimilate. We have to integrate millennials, you know, and there's all this, we have to change the way we work. Well, there are a lot of other reasons for that. So that's one thing, the burning issue. And then there's, in terms of the culture, it's the values and the belief system and everything that you do, every way you do it, which means that it's a business transformation effort. And you cannot silo that and say, HR, go fix it, right? Any business transformation effort, you have to have business leaders leading it and owning it, the people everyone looks up to because they're the ones that make the company go. You have to have the, you know, the burning platform. And the other thing that we know, and when we talk about diversity and innovation, is that you need diversity to solve very complex problems. The harder problems are, the more important diversity is. It's a mathematical fact. So a group of people with diverse backgrounds from expertise, but especially demographic and cultural backgrounds, are going to be better than a team of homogeneous experts or a single expert in solving your problem, given that they have some ability to solve the problem, which means they're smart and they know a little something, something, you know, about the issue. They will be better at predictions. They will use more different mental models to solve it, and they will also evaluate the options better. And so, you know, we know all of this stuff, you know, that we didn't know before. The McKinsey study that everyone cites about the effect of diversity on financial performance, what happens when you have boards in leadership comprised of women and or ethnic and cultural minorities. People are always talking about that when they're not talking about the rest of the report, which said those companies that, you know, had that and were able to outperform their sectors, the leaders of those companies were the ones that had business leaders involved in leading. They had a burning business issue where it was linked to growth. They used information and data to inform sort of a portfolio strategies. And then the fourth thing they had in common was that they targeted it, which is what I'm saying, and I'm going to leave you with it. So it's about how do we go the problem. Do we need more people around the table helping us? I would suspect that a hiring manager can tell you a lot, you know, about how you can help them make better decisions, or a leader about their challenges, you know, and ideas for better leading diverse teams. And if we don't do that, we're just not going to make it. And matching the market isn't a good argument for us yet, you know, and fairness and equality paradigm has limited results. Last thing I'm going to leave you with is the importance of belonging. A lot of people are talking about belonging now. and authenticity. Done internal research, 15,000 employees. I don't think ours are any different than anyone else. Belonging is not about warmth and welcome and, you know, can I wear my hair pink? You know, or it is much more practical. Belonging means I can ask for what I need, whether it is my personal life and work life, whether it is how I want to be treated, how I don't want to be treated, to get help with my career, to get, you know, feedback. It's very important to know that I can ask to contribute and that my ideas will be valued, and that when I do those things, which is being authentic, that's me, right? It's what I need, what I want, you know, and how I want to contribute. That's authentic. If you can't do that, and you can't do that in an environment where there's no negative consequence, where it won't hurt your career, you don't belong. So, I think having that kind of information is wind at our backs. And those are the kinds of considerations and conversations that are going to drive change. And I hope that, you know, I added a little value to your conversations today, and that you're really hopeful that you're going to be able to make diversity count instead of trying to make diversity counts. So thank you very much. I'm sorry I ran late.